Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just stepped out here to make a video about the corn, and we'll get to that here in a second. But I thought I'd give you a look around the backyard here. This is what we see when we step out. Got a kind of shot here. Sorry about the wiggly camera work. I don't have a tripod, but there's the main gardens over there. There's the blue lace red Wyandottes and the raised bed. The Ayam Samani chickens, they're back here in their house. There's a sweet corn plot we're going to talk about here in a second. But, there's the buff lace Brahma house over there. That's a garden shed we converted into a chicken house, and the storage shed. And about center in the shot there, that's the sweet potatoes. Chicken tractor over there on the left. But we'll get down here and talk about this corn, and I'll be right back with you. Okay guys, we're down here at the corn patch and it's growing away. Today is the 1st of July and they have that saying, knee high by the 1st of July. So we'll swing around here and see if we can't find Tina. Oh, there she is. Let's see. Tina is 4'10" and I believe we made it. Okay guys, one of the first questions that we normally get is how far apart do we plant our sweet corn? And the answer to that is about 6 inches apart. Hopefully you can see we pack them in there pretty dense. That helps with the wind and keeping the ground shaded. But our rows, if I can get a look back through here, if you can see our rows are about 16 inches apart. So we keep the rows pretty tight, and if you can see down in there, that ground is mostly shaded in between them. So that helps with the watering. Also helps keep the wind too. We keep the plants really dense, and you got to have good ground and keep the fertilizer to them to keep them that close together. But about 16 inches, rows 16 inches apart, and plants at about 6-inch intervals. All right guys, hopefully from this angle you can see another trick that we use. And that is, there's 3 different types of corn here. There's about 4 rows of one type, the taller type here, 4 rows down the center of a shorter type, and 4 rows here on the outside that are a little bit taller type. But what we do is the outside rows are a 91-day corn. After 10 days at 81 days, we fill in any skips with an 81-day corn, and then we plant in the rest of the 81-day corn. When 10 days has elapsed from that, we go back over and we plant our 71-day corn, and we fill in any skips in the 81-day corn. And what that results in is a little bit of variation in height, but we have a full corn patch. All of the skips have been filled in, most of them anyway. And that's how we get a full patch using days that overlap each other in 10-day increments. But we have a 90-day corn. We fill that in with an 81-day corn. The 81-day corn we fill in with a 71-day corn. And then all of it will mature on the same date, and we'll have one harvest of sweet corn. Okay guys, another question we get asked a lot about is weeding. And we do not weed the sweet corn constantly. We weed our sweet corn one time, and we do not weed between the plants. But at about 18 inches tall, hopefully you can see down in here, but there are no weeds between the rows. So at about 18 inches tall, we take a weed whacker and run down through there and scald the weeds off in between the rows, but we do not weed in between the plants. But by the time they're 18 inches tall, they're pretty much tall enough to handle their own weeds. But we can get down in here and see that between the rows, there just isn't much weed growth. They shade it out, and the weeds between the plants don't seem to affect the overall growth of the corn. It seems to be doing really well. So that's how we handle weeding. Okay guys, another question we get is, do we hill our corn? And the answer to that is no, we don't. It's not to say it's wrong, but We found that with the tight rows and the tight plant placement, we get a lot of good wind resistance. And we also found that for a lot of years we planted our corn too shallow. We started planting our corn at 2.5 inches, the depth that it recommended, and we found out that the anchor roots don't have any problems reaching the ground when you plant at the correct planting depth. So it might help some of you if you're used to hilling your corn and you want to save some time. Try planting at 2.5 inches and try planting your plants a little bit closer together, and it has saved us a ton of work over the years. Okay, we're down here at the other end of the corn patch. Let's talk for a second about fertilizer. And by now you guys ought to have a pretty good idea of the size of our corn patch. It's 12 rows deep, about 50 feet or so long. But when we fertilize 3 times. We use a straight nitrogen 3400, but this patch here took a 50-pound bag about a week before we planted. It took another 50-pound bag the day that it turned 18 inches. And the day we fertilize that is the one and only time that we weed, and I think we covered that. And the next time that we'll fertilize, the third and final time, is when the corn begins to tassel. You have to excuse the chickens, they're rude. But anyway, we fertilize our corn 3 times. We use 3400, and the first at planting, the second at 18 inches, and the third when it begins to tassel to help with ear formation. So, all right, guys, one of the next questions that we're usually asked is, do we spray our corn? And yes, we do. A lot of people won't admit to that, but we will. We use a liquid 7 concentrate on the corn until the corn begins to tassel, and then we switch over to BT. That's considered garden safe and organic, but the BT helps with worms and keeps out the cob end worms that eat up your corn. But we do spray our corn, and we use a concentrated liquid 7 on it until it's probably a little bit taller than this, and the tassels will start to come out. And once the tassels are out, we switch to BT. That way we're not spraying 7 on the edible part of the corn. But we do spray, and we enjoy feeding ourselves rather than feeding the bugs. All right, I'm standing here by the bridge going across the creek to answer this next question, and that is, how do we keep raccoons and stuff out of our corn? And I wanted to give you a shot of just how close. There's the orchard there. We'll swing around here past the stick pile, but just how close our corn is to that creek. It's maybe 40-50 feet as a crow flies. But we're out here on this end of the corn closest to the creek. We use box traps, and we set the traps here on the end, and we bait them with canned sweet corn. But that's what they're up here looking for. But we found that the coon, after a day and a night in the trap, tend to not want to come back. So what we do is we'll leave them in the box trap, and then later the following afternoon, when they've been trapped the night before, we'll point the trap back here towards the creek, and we'll hose them down real good with a garden hose, and we keep the hose on as we open the trap, and they usually make a beeline right for the creek. Now, that's not to say we don't keep a shotgun on standby, but in all the years that we've released coon right back, we've never had one turn and offer to fight. And after a night and a day in a trap and a good hosing down, they have a tendency not to be in a big hurry to come back. So that's how we deter them out of the corn patch. Okay, one last question we get is, when do we pick our sweet corn? And the answer to that is, we wait until about, say 30% of the corn is silked, and then we start counting 19 days. So at 19 days, from about the time 30% of it is soaked, we'll go out and start checking it. We'll peel back an ear and bust a kernel open with a fingernail, and if it's still milky white and good and sweet and soft, then we go ahead and harvest, and we take all the corn at one time. We planted it to mature all at once, even though there's 3 varieties. But we'll take it all at once, but we start checking the corn at 19 days after about a 30% silk. Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We had a lot of fun out here talking about the corn. We hope we learned something. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments below, and we appreciate it when you hit that thumbs up button. Your comments and questions and thumbs up tell YouTube to show our videos to more people, which we really appreciate. We hope you'll subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for notifications. We'd like you to come back and see what else we got going on here at Bumblebee Junction. But we appreciate your time. Thank you for coming out, and we'll see you in the next video.